Hello, everyone. I'm going to start with the presentation. OK, so we're going to start. Let me try if this works well. Perfect. Yeah, if you'd like to have a seat or move on. OK, so I want to start with a personal story. 5 years ago, I went to Bali for the first time in Indonesia. And I love the oceans, I love surfing, and I found myself paddling in an ocean full of plastic. And that made me really question the way we make and consume products, and made me realize that if we continue creating products that pollute the environment, we're basically destroying ourselves. Because if we destroy the oceans, we're destroying the planet. So that sparked an idea. What if we could consume products that instead of polluting the environment, they are regenerating the earth? So with that idea in mind, and 5 years of hard work, we created REGENESIS, which is advanced net zero eyewear materials that clean the planet by transforming ocean-bound plastic waste and capturing carbon inside of the frames. Imagine if you could increase your sales and lower your costs while achieving net zero emissions. So today I'm going to start by explaining who we are, how we can help you increase your sales, how you can achieve net zero, and deep dive into our materials and our technology. This is our team in Bali, in our Plastic Innovation Center. So we're basically a material science company, born after 5 years of sustainable product development with Pangea. Our mission is to transform the eyewear industry into a force that cleans the planet by turning plastic waste and CO2 into high-quality materials. And our vision is to create the most sustainable supply chain of eyewear in the world that enables brands to become circular and planet positive. My background is quite diverse. I studied sociology for 2 years, and then I dropped out to start managing my family business while I was studying business and project management in Buenos Aires, where I am from. And then after a few years of achieving a very sustainable and economically viable model with my family business, I went on to study innovation and entrepreneurship at Harvard. And then I started Pangea. And after 5 years of hard work, now we got accepted into a seed transformation program from Stanford, where I'm learning all these incredible tools to bring new innovation into the industry. My experience, I started my first business 17 years ago when I was 15, doing e-commerce and selling products to customers. I was working as a fashion model. Actually, I was in the Milan Fashion Week about 8 years ago, and managing my family business in the healthcare industry, and then started Pangea to create sustainable innovation. And from there, we evolved into REGENESIS so that we can expand our model to the rest of the industry. I'm a lover of nature and creativity with a strong background in sailing, surfing, hiking, nature, and music. What have we done so far with Pangea? We've been basically turning trash into sunglasses since 2023. And we were able to collect 120,000 kilos of trash from 13 countries around the world, with $1.5 million of sales of sustainable products, and 15 river barriers placed to date. So we created the first sunglasses in the world made with plastic waste collected from rivers and mangrove forests. And we sold $300,000 in the first 10 months, delivering thousands of frames to 63 countries, cleaning 30,000 kilos of trash from Indonesia. So our sunglasses are basically made from plastic waste that we collect from mangrove forests and rivers, combined with post-consumer waste from the coastal community. And we collect the waste, we pelletize it and re-engineer it, and then we produce, we sell, so that we can break the linear cycle into a circular cycle that basically is based on selling using recycling in a closed loop. Our first campaign was our mangrove sunglasses that we launched in 2023. And powered by the sales of those sunglasses, we were able to collect 1,500 volunteers and clean 5 tons of waste in 6 hours and created one of the largest mangrove cleanups in the history. And then we launched our river sunglasses, which we call our Ocean Guard campaign. And here we have a little video to show you. Let's see if it plays. OK, the video doesn't play. That's fine. So our journey started in the first stage, which was selling sustainable outdoor gear D2C to clean the environment. Then in 2021, after collecting so much waste from the environment, we started transforming it into recycled eyewear. And in 2024, we created our material science B2B through REGENESIS to supply our recycled materials for all the other brands in the eyewear industry. This is our lab in Bali, where we have our team of scientists and engineers, and where we're developing these new advanced materials for the whole industry. So our next goal is to create the most sustainable and innovative eyewear materials in the world, using science and nanotechnology. So we can decarbonize the supply chain, make it circular and regenerative, and offset any remaining emissions to achieve net zero. So we are on track to create net zero eyewear materials by July of this year, and then start offering them to the whole industry. So we're creating 3 materials in our lab, engineered for the 3 segments of eyewear. We have carbonite for sports, that is blended with recycled carbon fiber and graphene. We have aerolite, which is blended with aerogel for ultra lightweight and optimal comfort. And we have ocean tate, that is a replacement for acetate, with an alternative made from recycled ocean plastic. And this is in collaboration with a brand called Midori. OK, so how can we increase the sales of the eyewear brands? And that's through the power of cutting-edge innovation and value creation, which is a concept that we talk a lot about in Stanford. So what are the problems? The current economic problems is that there is a very complex economic landscape where there's a recession that is reducing sales with growing costs. So we have an average 5% drop in sales in 2024, according to our internal research, with increments in shipping about 2x, 100% increments in shipping, with a 5% increment in labor, and 10% increment in import costs from 2023 to 2025. So it's quite a challenging landscape. And at the same time, there's a highly competitive market with tighter margins and growing sustainable regulations, especially in the European Union. So what we see is that we have a lot of players that are relying on the same materials and producing nearly identical products. And eyewear has become a commodity that pushes price competition. So companies must innovate to differentiate themselves and create value in order to succeed in this challenging market. Now, the problem is that there are no real means to it, because the eyewear industry, although it's a wonderful industry that I love very much, for some reason it's getting a bit behind in innovation, especially around materials, where everyone is using either Triton or Arkema products, and those products are great, but they've been on already for 4 or 5 years. And speaking with all the players, this is what we're constantly receiving. Now, at the same time, there's an opportunity, and that's the growing demand for sustainability. As we all know, sustainability is on the rise, and especially in the newer generations, it's a very important thing. And according to market research from IBM, 80% of consumers indicate that sustainability is important to them, and 70% of those would pay up to a 35% premium. So there's an opportunity to tap into this market and start supplying sustainability and ride this wave that is only going to continue to expand in the long run. I don't think there's any customer in the world that would take a pair of sunglasses and say, I wish these glasses emit more CO2, or I wish these glasses were not recycled, right? As long as the quality is the same, sustainability is only going to add value for this demographic. So there's a study from Yahoo Finance, also combined with some research from PwC, that show that sustainable fashion is growing 23% per year versus 3% from global fashion. So what that means is that there is a transition from normal fashion to sustainable fashion. And that's growing about $3 billion per year. So what's our solution? We're here to turn the 11 million tons of plastic waste that enter the oceans from a problem into an opportunity, so that we can enable brands to become circular and regenerative while cutting CO2 emissions and becoming net zero, reducing plastic footprint while cutting costs, and providing the means to innovate to increase sales through the power of value innovation. So by using our materials, brands can achieve net zero, increase their sales, and improve their margins. Now there's another study from BCG that has been analyzing the rise of sustainability and projecting it as a consequence of the consumer demand, the consumer shifts, combined as well with the regulatory pressure, especially from the European Union, and what's going to happen probably in the next cycle in the USA as well. And there is a projected 5x gap between supply and demand of global fashion sustainable materials across all sectors. So this is a huge opportunity. And according to Economic Forum, solutions derived from principles of circular and regenerative economies are poised to unlock over $10 trillion in global business inside this decade. So what we see here in the economic landscape is that sales are dropping, but at the same time, consumers are demanding more sustainability. Sustainability is a value driver that increases sales. And we know that through innovation, we can create new campaigns that can call the attention of these consumers and therefore increase sales. Now, what we've seen as well is that most of the largest groups in the industry have all these incredible sustainable targets, and everyone wants to become net zero. But the question is how? We have a clicker issue here. Can we pass to the next slide, please? Okay. Now, part 3 of the presentation is becoming net zero. Why? In order to stay ahead of competition and avoid greenwashing claims by achieving the sustainability goals. Now, the problem is that the fashion industry generates about 40% of all new plastic in the world and 10% of all greenhouse gas emissions. And consumer demand for environmentally friendly products is accelerating, but the current supply chain cannot provide them. And that's because the supply chain is built on this huge linear economic model in which we are extracting natural resources, producing with high emissions, and creating products that are designed to be used, discarded, and then thrown away, and they end up polluting the environment. The eyewear industry is creating about 17 million kilos of new plastic per year and 250,000 tons of CO2. The consequence is that plastic pollution and climate change are destroying our planet at accelerated rates. And this is not political, this is just pure data. We lost 70% of all vertebrates on the planet in the last 50 years. 50% of the world's coral reefs have died. And the LA fires have burned 12,000 houses and generated $135 billion in losses. So climate change is real. And if we continue this trend, we're only going to destroy ourselves and burn our planet. I know this is not exciting, but this is the truth. This is the reality based on scientific evidence. So our solution is to move away from linear to circular systems so we can rethink waste as a resource and reshape it and reutilize it instead of creating new virgin plastics that are absolutely unnecessary. And we achieve that through advanced plastic engineering in order to regenerate the planet as a result. So going beyond sustainability, what we are creating here is a regenerative circular economy model. So what makes it regenerative? Sustainability is basically based on the concept of sustaining, which is meeting the needs of the present without compromising the future. So it's about resources efficiency, maintaining balance, and preventive action. Now, the thing is that it's a bit too late for that already, because we have already lost 40% of all mangrove forests, 50% of all corals, and 70% of all vertebrates in the world. So we must achieve regeneration, so that through regeneration we can rebuild the Earth and heal it. Now, the good news are that our Earth can heal. So regeneration instead is the process of restoring and revitalizing the health of ecosystems. So it's based on restorative action with positive impact and renewable action. So what we have achieved is a regenerative model in which every pair of sunglasses that we sell is actively cleaning the environment. And by cleaning the environment, those ecosystems thrive and survive. So we are currently collecting 1 kilo of plastic waste from every mangroves and rivers from the brands that purchase from us. And we have an additional impact program where every pair can plant 1 mangrove tree, plant 1 coral, and basically becoming regenerative by also offsetting the remaining emissions that we cannot reduce yet in order to achieve net zero. So what's the meaning of achieving net zero? Is the process of canceling the carbon footprint with regenerative action. Now, this is the last chapter of this presentation, which is about our technology and our materials. And this is based on 3 years of R&D and thousands of customers' insights and the wonderful support from our investors that allow us to get here today and launch these materials for the world. What's the problem there? It is that existing solutions are not fully sustainable and they lack novelty. So we know there's a few, we can say, sustainable materials out there. But many times we are using sustainability as a buzzword rather than the truth. Because if sustainability is a system that can maintain itself in the long term, we cannot achieve sustainability with a linear production model. We cannot achieve sustainability while we keep extracting natural resources and then discarding and polluting the earth. We can only achieve real sustainability if we can have a system that can grow without costing us the planet. And then there's a lack of novelty because there's little innovation in the industry, and everyone is using the same. So we have developed a carbon capture technology called ecofusion, in which we are using the power of nature to capture CO2. We have this wonderful earth that is very, very wise. And with every breath that we take, we're absorbing oxygen and throwing CO2 away. But then we have these wonderful plants that are capturing the CO2 that we emit and releasing the oxygen that we breathe. And so all the CO2 emissions that we are adding into the planet can be captured if we regenerate the earth and we have plants absorbing that CO2 for us. So we're using the power of photosynthesis to capture the carbon of palm trees and their capacity to store it inside of coconuts. And then naturally, photosynthesis is carbon neutral because palm trees would absorb that carbon, store it in the coconuts, and then coconuts would naturally biodegrade and then release it back into the atmosphere. And then the next plant is going to capture it and release it in a neutral cycle of carbon neutrality. But that's where science comes in. So through pyrolysis, we can turn those coconut shells that are basically CO2 that is captured into the biomass. And through pyrolysis, we can store that carbon into something called biochar that we can then mix and pulverize to mix it with mangrove plastic, river plastic, combined with the plastic waste from the coastal communities in order to create new pellets that are storing the carbon from the palm trees inside of the material. And that's what we're using to create our frames in order to capture carbon and store it inside of every pair of sunglasses that we can then produce, sell, use, and recycle in a closed loop. So our technology cleans the planet, eliminates new plastic, and captures CO2. And we're currently working to cut emissions by 80% at a lower cost than virgin materials. So we developed carbonite, which is engineered for sports frames. And we have blended with graphene, that is the strongest material in the world. And we recycle carbon fiber in order to create a material that is unbreakable and that has 95% of recycled content versus 50% of the existing alternatives. We created as well ocean tate, which is an alternative to acetate engineered for fashion frames with higher density, and a recycled alternative to acetate with 80% lower carbon footprint. And aerolite, that is engineered for optical frames, ultra lightweight, and it's the first aerogel composite for the eyewear industry in the world. And we have patented it last week. So if you want to experience it, you can come to our booth and see it firsthand. So in order to achieve this, we put together an incredible team of scientists and engineers. We have a PhD in nanotechnology, a PhD in environmental science, a master's in plastic technology, materials engineer from McGill, and a wonderful group of scientists, consultants from Singapore, from the NTU, NUS, and Holland that we have put together to figure out how can we make the eyewear industry regenerative, and how can we create materials that are cheaper than virgin so that brands can achieve their sustainability targets, become net zero, become planet positive, while making more sales and attracting new customers. So with REGENESIS, we can stop imagining and we can make it happen. Thank you so much. Yeah, if anyone has any questions, wide audience, gentleman over there. No questions? Okay. Yep, thank you so much, guys.